Hello, I'm Rena, and welcome to Biopic, a podcast story. This is a podcast where we discuss the good, bad, ugly, and absurd of this specific genre of motion picture, the biopic. If you want to learn more about us, our scoring system, and how we choose movies, please check out our special introductory episode, Introduction, Who Are We, and What Are We Doing? This is not one of our regularly scheduled weekly podcasts. It's an extra that we're throwing out there, with some bits that we cut from episode 15, Prefontaine, and in a throwback, episode 4, Respect, and episode 5, The Conqueror. This is some of the material that we deemed to be irrelevant host banter, or cut for time, and because it was digressive or repetitive. Some of this sounds without context, like we are having a conversation in non sequiturs. So if this is your first time listening, you should probably download one of our regular episodes or our introductory episode to get a better sense of what we're all about. Enjoy, and thank you for spending some of your time with us.
It's true, and also I couldn't help but notice that her dad was really ready with that. I was like, wow, her dad is really comfortable just pulling a gun on someone showing up at the house, which, you know, is fine. Maybe he knew that fucking Ted was going to show up. But yeah, he's just like, I'm ready to murder you.
And White Chicks actually has a line here that, do you want me to stop calling him White Chicks, Sarah?
You can if you want.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm calling him fucking Ted. And I thought that the way that they showed the passage of time was very considerate and thoughtfully done. Although there's a thing with movies when you see movies with old cars in them. And this movie had that, where those old cars are in perfect condition because they are all rented from collectors. And all of the cars in the movie, particularly in the beginning, I was noticing these cars all have 10 miles on them. No one has ever driven them. They are shiny and flawless. But yeah, I thought that the passage of time was communicated incredibly well across a variety of different mediums in the film.
That's one of the things that, again, things Mad Men did really well. They knew that people would have been wearing things that they bought 3 to 5 years ago because not everyone replaced their entire wardrobe every year with whatever stands out in our memory of what people wore that year, and that people expected to get 10 years out of a car. And a lot of these things you see, not only does that car look like it has no miles on it, it's also that car looks like it has no miles on it because they bought that year's model, even if they're not supposed to be super wealthy. Until I figured out that this character was Rick Hall, the owner of the legendary Muscle Shoals recording studio. I referred to him in my notes as Southern Man. So, although he turns out, I suppose, to be not as bad as we'd think, possibly of men in that generation, I kind of like referring to him as Southern Man.
It's very accurate.
I have a note here on an accident that Susan Panther had on set with a panther. So I have a note here on an accident that Susan Hayward had on set with a panther, if you'll give me a minute to look it up. Where is this? Yeah, I feel like there's more going on than we're digging into, but we just...
I actually don't think that there is. I think that it's just convoluted and crazy.
The whole thing is very hard to follow.
I don't think that there was a failure on our part to follow the film. I don't think that it made a lick of sense.
It really doesn't.
I went to see a Beauty and the Beast show at Disney World, and they get her into the Beast Castle from the opening number by saying, through a series of events, Belle is now the prisoner at the castle. And I was like, I respect the series of events justification for how you're telling your story. That means you're not worried at all about editing this. You're just like, series of events happen. We're just going to lop 30 minutes out of this story in order to make it quick and easy for you to swallow at Disney World. That's my story. Okay.
It's so weird, Sarah. I just feel like there's more to unpack here. I'm going to go back into the killing of John Wayne for some tidbits, because maybe this will set the thing in perspective. I feel like there's more to say here. And we've set some kind of standard that we'll look back to, beginning with that John Wayne didn't read the script before showing up. Says about John Wayne attempting to handle the dialogue. "You're beautiful in your wrath," Wayne uttered to himself over and over in attempts to properly recite his dialogue out loud. Lines like, "While I live, while my blood burns hot, your daughter is not safe in her tent," or "She is a woman, much woman. Should her perfidy be less than that of other women," unsurprisingly, did not roll off the actor's tongue.
Yeah. And you know, he didn't even really try either. I want to just, again, emphasize that.
I have to, like, bite my arm to laugh while reading
this. Agonizing.
Yeah.
Why do we let people write whatever they want on the internet?
It's a free country.
Maybe it shouldn't be.
No, Sarah, all of our problems right now are due to young people having their educations paid for by Qatar and absorbing things from TikTok that make them think that liberal democracy is just one more form of government and not that much worse than, say, theocracy or other forms of government that are worse than liberal democracy, however paltry our efforts at it are. Okay, I'm going to go back to reading this. People that criticize this movie keep pointing out... Oh, wait, I didn't read this. I'm not sure if I got through this line. The one about the tongue line between his makeup and his hair really looks alien in this. Okay.
I mean, yes, but I was just also going to add, I don't know if I feel as strongly as you do, except I do think we need to, like, let people have less free speech.
No, Sarah.
I'm kidding. I don't want that. But he does use a lot of sort of qualifying language in here that makes me surprised he comes out with a 10 out of 10. There's a lot of pretty decent, pretty good. Also, the fact that an Omar Sharif version of this story exists does not justify the existence of John Wayne's version. None of those films should exist. We shouldn't be making celebratory films about Genghis Khan. What are we doing? I'm remembering when I was saying we didn't know whether the Doors were bigger than the Rolling Stones or less well known than Whitesnake. And this movie treats collegiate level track and field as if it is the Rolling Stones of college sports.
Good God. Yeah, and there was fan service around Adidas in race last week, which was sort of more like a neat little drop in there, and here it is sneakerhead, bonk you on the head. And I've always been an Asics woman for the gym myself.
I didn't mind it here. As far as I know, Nike has never been sympathetic to the Nazis. As far as I know. I have not done the work around that statement. I know there's like some messy stuff with China and Nike, but I don't think they ever propped up the Nazis the way the Adidas brand has and continues to.
Whatevs. I've been an Asics gel Kayano woman since 2014, and I'm sticking with it.
I like a Nike. I am a Nike runner. I mean, they go around the track. Like, let's do the math on this here. So 4 laps around your standard size track is about a mile. So we're talking, oh God, math is hard.
Talking about people running in circles a lot.
This is like,
let's get back to the,
14 laps.
What a loss.
Track and field, is it sexy? Is it? I don't know. It feels like all of this stuff, like they might as well be talking about, what is that ice cream of the future that they sell at zoos? The Dippin' Dots.
I wish they'd actually make Dippin' Dots out of decent quality ice cream.
But it's like the future never came for track and field becoming this sport that it's proposed to be in this film.
It doesn't change. They just go around and around. At least with sports ball, people do new things. I'm bored either way, but I don't think anyone's ever played precisely the same game of sports ball twice.
I don't think that such a thing's possible. Once again, like the fact that the track and field had a glamour event and they keep talking about people who we've never heard of and name checking them. And I'm bemused by this whole affair.
We have a needle drop to Baba O'Reilly, and once again, this is not a Vietnam movie. What's it doing there?
He runs to it.
Teenage Wasteland! I love that song so much, and it made me happier than anything in this movie except for when Ed O'Neill and Kurtwood Smith show up.
I do not think of that song as a Vietnam song, which is why I was smugly scurrying to my computer to look up when that song came out, because I was convinced this was another Gia situation where they were playing a song like from after, spoiler alert, Prefontaine's death from drunk driving. But it did come out in 1971. So again, what do I know about anything?
Yeah, several is like 3.
Oh, I think of several as anywhere from like 5 to 12.
I think of several as like 3 or 4. And
I always think of several as more than that.
See, I would say a couple for 2, several for 3 or 4, nearly half a dozen for 5, half a dozen or over, and then I would quantify until I get to the dozen.
And maybe that's just something that's been done so much that it feels very cliched at this point. It's like the problem I have with like, this is a different kind of movie, but like a problem I have with Lethal Weapon is that I saw that movie after I had seen pretty much every other police brutality buddy comedy drama about cops. And by the time I saw that, I had seen where all of the cliches came from. And so now I was viewing the source, and it didn't feel like a good movie to me because of that. And maybe in some way, like that's like part of the burnout of the "and then they died" movie, where there's all these things that happen every single time. Like there's these rules. Even your guy that you liked, like they said he was a police officer. The runner you liked,
Viren?
Yeah, Viren was a police officer. They said the Olympics were real amateurs at a certain point.
Yeah.
So he was a cop by day and a track and field star by night.
Which actually makes you think, like, how much better could older records have been if people hadn't had to work stupid day jobs?
Yeah. If you read about the history of the decathlon and Caitlyn Jenner's participation in that in 1976 in Montreal, these were all real amateurs in terms of how they trained and everything. Like the people did not have access to the kind of training that they do now. So it is interesting the level to which people weren't allowed to profit off of it. Anyway, that's just a whole digression. You're allowed to curse. It's me. It's me that's not allowed to curse.
Last week you were mean to Frida, and it deserved second opinion. And this week you're being too nice to Prefontaine, which also deserves second opinion.
I didn't think I was that mean to Frida.
Well, you were the reason it didn't pull in above 8.
Everything can't be an 8, though.
Well, everything can't be a 10. No, you're right. You're right. I was so excited to get to do second opinion.
I'm sorry. I didn't feel like it was shitty as much as it was meaty. It was forgettable. Maybe we should just do second opinions whenever we feel like it. Because you really like second opinions.
I love doing second opinion.
Maybe we just need to start doing them because you like them.
I guess second opinion does not make sense if something gets like between a 5 and a 7.
Yeah.
That's when it doesn't make sense.
If we're coming away from this and I'm saying that ultimately it's mediocre and forgettable, like there's people who strongly disagree with that assessment on the internet. I saw some of the reviews about how exciting this movie was, and I thought, did we see the same movie?
I thought this movie was pretty awful, and I had some second opinions here.
I don't know how to explain myself except to say that I work in mysterious ways.
It was better than Caligula, which did qualify for second opinion, barely.
Yeah. Because I gave it that 10.
Right, because you gave it the 10 for ego surrender, the category we got rid of. And I just hate most jock movies.
In its favor, it was under 2 hours. And the movie we're watching next week is the opposite of that.
We're watching Cleopatra. I can't wait.
I also cannot wait because I don't think that I have ever seen it.
I think I've seen parts of it.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably come away saying if this movie had been an hour shorter, it would be.
I think it's a really weird thing to confuse it with, but I sometimes confuse things I've seen in Spartacus with things that I've seen from Cleopatra. And I realize how stupid that sounds.
How much does Richard Burton look like Kirk Douglas?
Not at all.
How much does the life of the Queen of Egypt resemble a bunch of slaves?
Well, everyone's wearing those little metal skirts.
Not everyone.
Not everyone, but just all the men are wearing the little metal skirts in Cleopatra and in Spartacus.
But they also wear them in some of the Jesus movies.
Yeah, but I know Jesus movies.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, second opinion. Pre is God. Written by Chesdunk23 in August of 2002. 10 stars. As a runner, I cannot resist but love the story of Steve Prefontaine's rise and fall. He is an inspiration to all who lace up and head out the door for an hour-long trek through the woods, trails, and roadsides. This movie captured the spirit of Pre and the emotions experienced by many athletes, not just runners. This was the one movie I watched on the bus ride up to Vermont's state track meet. As I ran, my lungs and legs burned, and all I could think of is this one scene. Pre-running, and all that can be heard is his breath. The camera focuses on his chest, up and down. When running, I am in my own world. Just as the movie shows, everything around me is just a backdrop, a supplement to my race against myself, my own times, and my fellow runners. They push me, I push them, like Viren does Pre. This movie captures all the aspects of a race and the qualities of a true runner. If you run for fun, your drive to strive will reach unfathomable levels. I don't relate.
I don't understand what that review is about. That sounds like that's a review of his track meet.
You're right.
And sounds like it was great.
Yeah. Okay. The next review, you're going to love this writer's handle, Sarah. Again, 10 out of 10 stars. A film about the American runner Stephen Prefontaine by Johnny Depp Fan 1853, written in April of 2005.
Oh my God, we're swatting this person's house after this. I'm sending the internet after you, Johnny Depp Fan. 8275 or whatever the hell your name is. Already I know this person has terrible taste, so go on.
This film was fabulous. Followed, I think there are like 11 or 12 exclamation points at the end after this film was fabulous. It was on BBC Two, very late, so I thought it wouldn't be a good film because they usually put bad films on at that time of the night, but oh my word, was I wrong. Exclamation point, no space. I loved it! Exclamation point, no space. It had a funky kind of feel to it, parentheses, very cool, and great music! Exclamation point. Jared Leto plays Prefontaine. Truthfully, I had never heard of him before, but I won't forget him. He is an amazing actor. You left out the apostrophe and won't. Not only was he amazing at acting, he is very, very, very good looking. 5 exclamation points. If you love drama, sports, romance, action, or hot guys, this film has the perfect amount of everything for your taste. I would advise anyone and everyone to see this film. Go Pre, all caps, 5 exclamation points.
What? You're going to take the word of a Johnny Depp fan? I'm appalled. I'm appalled by that review. Romance? Really?
No. There was nothing. I couldn't have cared less about him and what's-her-face at all. There was zero chemistry there.
You're right. There was zero chemistry. So many exclamation points. Like, that's like half the line.
Yeah. So many exclamation points. Okay, the final one.
Okay.
10 out of 10. Prefontaine is the best running movie ever made. This was in November of 2002. So we just saw a much better running movie last week, which would not get made for another 14 years. But Chariots of Fire was already out, which you haven't seen. Okay. Prefontaine is the best running movie ever made by Dav Quiggs, 14 November 2002. Steve Prefontaine was America's best long-distance runner ever. This movie shows how you can achieve your dreams and that anything is possible. Prefontaine...
It literally does not.
Prefontaine is filled with great action. That is, if you actually enjoy watching someone run on the TV. After watching this movie, you will feel like going outside and running a 5-kilometer. This is one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. I have never in my life felt like running a 5-kilometer. Maybe walking one at a brisk pace in the park is my thing. I don't think we saw the same movie. He doesn't achieve his dreams. Few things are possible. I do not see eye to eye with this.
I mean, there's a couple of things that I can pull apart here. First of all, sure, okay, I bet it is one of the best movies about running. Sure. Steve Prefontaine, one of the best runners in America. Sure. I have no fight on...
But quantifiably, there are runners who have beaten all of his records. American runners with actual medals that...
Yeah.
Medals like the thing Steve Prefontaine did not get in Munich or Montreal.
He did not medal. Did it qualify best American runner, or just did it say long distance?
America's best long distance runner ever. I'm sure if we felt like it, we could look up current American record holders, but we don't feel like it.
I'm going to guess that they probably name-checked them somewhere in that movie and expected me to know exactly who they were and be super excited to hear their name. Because once again, this movie treated collegiate level track and field as if it were as important as, you know, they're like, this is like the Jack Nicholson of sports. I don't even know how to describe. They elevated it to a level where you would think that all anybody talked about in the 70s was collegiate level track and field.
Yeah. And you know what? The problem was always, I don't care.
And also, I feel like there's a lot of places that you can derive the message that anything is possible.
But anything is not possible. Viren doesn't even show up.
No, anything is not possible for Steve Prefontaine. But in general, literally anything is possible at any given time, in theory. But I don't think this movie delivered that message. Anything is possible. Anything. But I don't think this movie delivered on that promise.
I don't think this movie accomplished anything.
I mean, he didn't even medal at the Munich Olympics. Like, I keep thinking of the line from Mean Girls, like, she doesn't even go here. He didn't even medal.
Yeah.
You know, like the way that we worship athletes.
Oh, that's right. You actually got dragged to Cooperstown as a kid. I'm so glad my family never went to Cooperstown.
I have participated so many events that were centered around elevating athletes in a way that maybe they're not necessarily worthy of. I'm putting it that way because I've been to a sports banquet or two, in addition to Cooperstown. And, you know, it's this idea that we quantify being a good person with being a good athlete. We try and push those two things together. And really, there doesn't seem like there was anything remarkable about Prefontaine as a person, besides the fact that it seemed like he really liked to run hard and didn't give up easily or something. Got some of our favorites in here. Did Richard Burton drink a lot during this movie? Do you know?
I think the question, did Richard Burton drink a lot? You don't need to quantify that with like any mention of any particular time.
You're right. That's a good call. Did Rex Harrison murder his wife while making this movie? We'll find out.
We'll find out. All 4 hours and 10 minutes of it. That was the 6th edition of Irrelevant Host Banter. If you want to get a better idea of what we're all about, please listen to one of our regular episodes. If you like the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are relying on word of mouth to help build the podcast, so please tell a friend, or better yet, plural friends, and share us on social media. We hear it helps. Have an excellent day, and we hope you'll listen in when our regular episode drops on Tuesday.